as well as their political and cultural influence, those states are the main drivers of globalization. They concentrate global wealth, producing 75% of global GDP. They dominate world trade, accounting for 75% of global import and export of goods, and they are the main source of foreign direct investments. 85% of the world's foreign direct investment flows out of those countries. Those states include the world's main financial center, where the world's largest stock exchange and the top international banks are located: New York, Tokyo, Shanghai, and Zurich. The headquarters of the largest transnational companies. The top 10 largest transnational companies. In this top 10, we can find some companies like Apple, that is an American company, and Walmart, that is also an American company, and Toyota, that is a Japanese company. And these countries have the leading research centers, institution, like in New York, Tokyo, and London, the most dynamic transport hubs like the Chinese port and the North American airports. A foreign direct investment is an investment of a company in a foreign country. Transnational companies or transnational corporations are companies organizing their production on a global scale, deploying their activities in several countries. The International Monetary Funds classify 99 countries as emerging markets. Despite their difference, they can be defined thanks to a few characteristics. And we are going to see who are these emerging countries right now. A lower income per capita. The average person living in there tends to earn less than someone in a developed country. Fast growth. Those countries have undergone a rapid economic growth since the 2000s. Seven of them, including China, South Korea, and Indonesia, exceeded annual per capita GDP growth of 3.5% for a 50-year period. This fast growth has led to a better standard of living for the population and the emergence of a middle class with a growing purchasing power. An increasing role on the international stage. The integration of emerging countries is characterized by contestation of the present international order and a demand for reform in order to make it fairer. We can also speak about the refusal of these countries to be marginalized in decision-making process, from G7 to G20, and the creation of new institutions like the New Development Bank and International Financial Institution established by the BRICS members in 2014. It is very important to speak about the BRICS because they represent 42% of the population and 23% of GDP. And they also have some important metropolises like Shanghai, Mumbai, Moscow, and some transnational companies like Sinopec and Gazprom. The major metropolises of the world from the architecture of the globalization process, they are large and densely populated cities. We are both decision-making centers of globalization, economically, politically, and culturally speaking, and the hubs of physical networks, ports, and airports. In those metropolises, the economic decision-making centers are generally the center business districts, also called CBD. The stock exchange, large bank, and headquarters of TNCs are located there. For example, Manhattan in New York, the City in London, La Défense in Paris, Shinjuku in Tokyo, or Pudong in Shanghai. How measuring the power of those metropolises? The example of the Global Power City Index, a Japanese index, it evaluates and ranks the major cities of the world according to their magnetism or their comprehensive power to attract people, capital, and companies from around the world. It measures six functions: economy, research and development, cultural interaction, livability, environment, and accessibility. The four global cities and the other major metropolises: 1. London, 2nd. New York, 3rd. Tokyo, fourth, Paris. According to the GPCI, these are the top cities. Those four cities are global cities. These terms was popularized by sociologist Saskia Sassen in 1991. These cities are key locations within the world economy, acting as crucial center for the global trading of goods and service. Economically, they serve a variety of international economic services and host the headquarters for several multinational corporations. Socially, they have a wide diversity of culture, religions, ideologies, and languages. There are also other major metropolises that share many of the same characteristics and also have an international importance, even though their global impact is less significant than global cities like Shanghai, Dubai, Beijing, Sydney, Hong Kong, Singapore, Los Angeles, Chicago, Seoul, Moscow, Sao Paulo, etc. etc. A megapolis is an extensive, heavily populated, and continuous urban area that includes a number of cities. In other words, it's a chain of large urban areas that are joined one another. On the first example of a megapolis was the northeastern coast of the USA, from Boston to Washington, the Boswash megapolis. Other are other are the one Others are the one in Japan, Tokyo, Osaka, Kobe, the European backbone stretching from London to Milan. Many of those regions are currently developing in Asia, such as the Pearl River Delta in China and the Jakarta Bandung metropolitan area in Indonesia. For example, the US Northeast megalopolis or Boswatch megalopolis includes the major cities of Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. It is the most urbanized megalopolis in the United States, home to over 50 million people. It accounts for 20% of the US GDP, and it is home to the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ, NASDAQ, the White House, the United States, the Capitol, the UN headquarters, the of television groups and newspaper, the New York Times, the Washington Post, as well as the headquarters of many major financial companies such as JP Morgan Chase or Goldman Sachs.